Hey folks, SWEGTA here, and today I'll be the voice for this video. Let's roll! While creating AI for Counter-Strike Source, developers of Turtle Rock Studios had a lot of fun with it. A few armed-to-the-teeth developers stood against 30 knife-wielding enemy bots. Michael Booth, the founder, remembers that these rounds against knife-wielding bots were a pure joy for them. When CS Source was finally shipped, the studio started to experiment with a new game prototype. They had an idea to work on a co-op versus the Horde game, which they thought had a lot of potential since they had a lot of fun messing around with those bots. This prototype was titled Terror Strike, which would eventually turn into what Left 4 Dead is today. In fact, you can find a lot of Terror Strike leftovers in the game files. For instance, in the early days, terrorists were the survivors and the counter-terrorist forces were the infected. According to the developer's blog, these two pictures were taken directly from the Terror Strike prototype. Both of these screenshots feature an early model of Zoey, who is equipped with a Counter-Strike Source weapon. At this point, it's very likely that the developers had already made the well-known first aid kit and a Molotov cocktail. The next interesting thing is the countdown. Developers stated that the zombie waves were unlimited, so the game would only end if every single survivor had died. By looking at the old Left 4 Dead screenshots and gameplays, you can clearly see the main characters look different. So let's compare them. This is Lewis, Francis. You already saw Zoey, and finally Bill. As the developers mentioned, despite having different models, they were always Lewis, Francis, Zoey, and Bill to them. Interesting fact, not too long of a time ago, developers found these old models way deep in their archives, so if you want to play with them in the sequel, the links to download them will be available in the description below. In January 2008, Valve bought Michael Booth's studio and renamed it into Valve South. Starting from this moment, Valve began to promote this beautiful game at E3, where they announced some tweaks to it.
So one of the last things we're doing with the game before we ship it is we're redoing all of the survivor characters, and this will be the first time anyone's seen these new survivor designs.
In fact, one of the reasons why these models were redesigned was because the original meshes did not hold up well under the demands of facial animation that was required for this particular game. So even these concept arts have some differences. New Zoey was meant to have a different hairstyle, as well as Francis. While Bill was meant to just have a different t-shirt. Interestingly, Lewis remained the same as he was shown at E3. And what about Infected? Well, for some reason, these concept arts are hidden in the game files and all of them look identical to their final counterparts. Interestingly, the tank here is called Hulk. Wait, what about the Screamer? Fortunately, there is an answer.
The Screamer was a boss zombie who didn't have any actual attacks. He was bound in a straitjacket. You knew when he was around because of his crazed, maniacal cackling. The trick to the Screamer was that if he saw you, you had a moment to kill him before he ran away. And once the Screamer got away from the survivors to a hiding place, he would emit a loud, howling scream that would cause a huge mob of zombies to attack the survivors. While there were several exciting moments of knowing you had to chase him down to shoot him before he screamed, dodging zombies all the way, ultimately it proved too confusing for the survivors to discover how he worked or even to reliably notice him in the crowd. He was cut, and his horde drawing attack eventually evolved into the Boomer attack.
Originally, the Boomer just exploded when shot, instantly dealing a lot of damage to everyone nearby, or even the whole team if someone made a bad decision in close quarters. The Boomer didn't yet have his vomit attack. That horde drawing ability belonged to the Screamer. As the design of the game continued to evolve, the Screamer was cut, and this horde attracting ability was transferred to the Boomer's vomit attack.
On the other hand, developers did not mention anywhere about the mysterious zombie dog whose voice can be found in the game files. You might have noticed that the attack sounds were actually reused for the hunter. Since these strings are found in the game Sounds Infected special file, it might be a clue that the zombie dog was intended as a special infected and not just a regular one. At one point this game had an upgrade system. For example, you could attach a laser sight to your weapon just like in the sequel. An unused tip suggests that these upgrades were found during the levels, again just like in the sequel. This is a table with all upgrades found by the Left 4 Dead community. If you want to read them, pause the video. Now I'll show you how to enable them. And since these console commands are disabled in-game, we will have to use a server mod called source mod. Type this command in the server console. Finish current level.
Lock that door!
From the start, every survivor receives a random upgrade. If you die, you will lose it. So, I received an extended mag upgrade. As a result, my Uzi received 20 additional bullets, while pistol 11. Sadly enough, these upgrades were never finished in the game, and a few of them were reused only in the sequel. Speaking of the console commands, by typing this one, you will be able to crawl while you are incapacitated. Originally, there were two reload animations, one for when the magazine was empty and one for when it was not. If you had an empty magazine, the player would have to cock the gun before firing it again. Strangely enough, you can only see these animations in the third-person view. These animations remained unused and can be enabled with a server-side mod. In fact, only shotguns still use them. Another cut animation set. They were used when a player picked up a new gun. These ones are unused as well and can also be enabled via mod. Taking a few steps back, have you noticed this tip? Apparently you could share your second pistol with your teammate. You could also give your medkit to your teammate instead of healing him. And finally, HUD changes. When the game was shown to the public, it had this kind of a HUD. As you can see, it still uses a Counter-Strike Source style kill counter. In fact, these icons are still left in the game files. The next HUD looked like this. Sadly, I haven't found any infected gameplay, but you can still find similar infected icons in the game files. Let's take a look at the other leftovers, like this one. It's an unusual ammo counter with 8 shells. Since the pop shotgun only had exactly 8 shells, this counter might have been used for the shotty. Sadly, it has never really been shown in the old footages, so it's a mystery of what it might have been intended for. And finally, Terror Strike leftovers. Looks like the nade was used before the pipe bomb was ever created, but what about this medkit icon? It features both first aid kit and painkillers. I really have no idea why. Thank you all for watching this analysis video on Beta Left 4 Dead. If you have the time, I strongly urge you to check out my channel. I do a large variety of videos, including some occasional beta research on Bully, as well as some kick-ass machinimas and mod reviews. Rock on!